Why would you waste your time and effort on micro-brand watches? Seriously, that's a very good question. It's a question that was asked to me quite a few times over the years. And it's usually a question I get asked by a handful of people that turn up in the comments section very rarely, and you never see them again. And on that note, why would you even collect micro-brand watches? Why would you even collect mainstream watches? And firstly, let me start off by saying two statements. I'm not a watch snob, period. Never have been, never will be. I like a $300 watch, I like a $3,000 watch, I like a $30,000 watch. A lot of the watches we can't afford, but we buy within our means. One watch is an apple, the other watch is an orange. However, they both serve their purpose. Secondly, for me, variety is the spice of life. I think it's good to try various brands at various price points, and it's a way of getting hands-on with some really well-spec'd and well-built watches without making a big dent in your back pocket. Because most micro-brand watches are very affordable. And some people might say, but yeah, Pete, with micro-brand, you're throwing money away because you're not going to get any real yield when it comes to sell the watch if you fall out of love with it. Well, true. That is true. I can't deny that. But let's look at the other side of the equation. Major brands. The same thing happens. You can spend $10,000 on a Omega Aquaterra. You fall out of love with it, you're going to sell it for about 6.5, 7. You've lost a pretty chunk of money there. You buy a $1,000 micro-brand watch, a Baltic or a Zalos or a Traska, and you paid that $1,000, and when you go to sell that watch, you'll probably sell it to anywhere between $600 and $700. So you've got to decide for yourself what's better for you. Is it better to lose $300 or $400 on a $1,000 transaction by buying a micro-brand? Even $500, even if you sell it for half price, you've lost $500 on a $1,000 transaction. Or is it better to lose $3,000, maybe $4,000 on a $10,000 transaction by buying a mainstream brand? Because all watches lose money, period. Now, there are some exceptions, of course. Rolex, yes, they will not only hold their value, but in fact, they'll probably make some money for you. But that said, there's also some micro brands that will hold their value and also double their value. I've seen some Zalos watches sell for double the price. Go figure. So there's obviously a cult following for Rolex. There's obviously a cult following for certain micro brands. We're talking about an affordable space, but we're also talking about a luxury space, and they both have their plus and minuses. Just depends on the brand. Go buy yourself a Longines, see how much money it loses when it leaves the store. Go buy an Omega. I've bought many Omegas. Aquaterras, Speedmasters, I've bought plenty of watches. Retail, walk out the store, tell me how much money you lose on that watch. They all lose money. So if you think by buying a particular watch you're going to make money, yes, there are particular watches you can make money, but few and far between, and you've got to get hands-on at the right price. It's as simple as that. But most mainstream brands, you're going to lose money. It's a given. Now, for me personally, my most expensive watch is a $13,000 watch. My cheapest watch is about $300. That's it. Now, I do have a comfort point. For me, the watches that I enjoy wearing, the watches, when I say enjoy, the comfortable watches, the watches I'm prepared to take away even on holidays, is between $3,000 and $6,000. Anything in that range I'm happy, or even below that, of course, but anything above that, you start getting a $10,000 or $12,000 watch, I really wouldn't take it holidays with me because the world has changed. We know the deal. So at the end of the day, there are watches that I'm comfortable in having in my watch box, and they're usually the ones that get the most usage. Even my Sin 856, it's a $3,000 watch, but I wear that for work. It's a tough as nails watch. So you got to buy within your own means. Make up your own decision. It is a hobby. And the last time I checked, hobbies make money. No, they don't. Hobbies lose money. You need to put money into a hobby. That's how it works. So going back to the original question, why waste time and effort on micro-brand watches? Well, not all micro-brand watches are created equal. And on that note, not all major brands are created equal either. That's a given. But the watches I personally choose to get on the channel to review have to follow 4 criteria, 4 points that I look for in a watch. So, I like that, I'll get that on the channel. And it's simple as this. Number 1, looks and design. In other words, aesthetics. A watch has to be visually interesting, or it might have a complication or unusual quirk or something, a good mix of color. Whatever the case, if it's visually appealing to me, I'll get drawn to that watch. Number 2, the running gear. What's under the hood? What engine is actually running that watch? Now, I like it when micro brands use Swiss, ETA or Solita movements. That's a good thing. However, I actually like it even more when a brand decides to use not the base model, but something higher. For an example, instead of using an SW200, they'll source an SW300. something a little bit more finesse, maybe a Labrador grade, maybe top grade, but it just makes you think if this micro brand is sourcing a better movement, a higher power reserve, they're obviously paying attention to detail in their product and wanting to provide something to the consumer, that's us, that I think is a little bit better than just your standard norm. Likewise, I also enjoy watches having a Japanese Miyota 9 series or a Le Jour Perret for argument's sake. So movements that are refined, that are slightly higher grade than your base models. When it comes to Seiko NH35, I don't have a problem reviewing those sort of watches. They're tough, they're reliable, all the rest, but there's nothing finesse about them. So if it's priced accordingly, I'm happy. But if you've got an NH35 and you're asking $1,000 for the watch, there's something wrong. So I try to take all that criteria into play. Number 3 for me is quality, fit, and finish. In other words, I'm not interested in cheap and nasty. I don't have a problem I'm not talking about money. I don't have a problem with a $50 watch. I'm happy with watches that are inexpensive, but I'm not happy with cheap and nasty. In other words, if a watch is inexpensive, but it's also flimsy, average bracelet, cheap, the movement, you have to, you know what I'm saying. I really want something that's got a little bit of quality, something that I would wear. I'm happy to spend $50, but I've got to wear the watch. Simple as that. So that's the third criteria. And the fourth and final criteria for me is the brand's reputation or genuineness. And the reason I say genuine, because a lot of micro brands, let's say it's their first rodeo, that's their first model. Well, they've got no reputation. Now, do you get a gut feeling, is this a good brand? You're looking at their website, you're looking at how they're interacting with you through email, through conversations, and you're thinking, I like this guy. There's something, sometimes we get to meet people hands-on, we go to watch events and I get to shake someone's hand, you look at them in the eye, you talk, I like you guys. I like what you offer, I like your product, I want to get it on my channel. So, at the end of the day, you got to go with your gut feeling as well if they don't have a previous reputation. So for me, since I like to dabble in the microbrand space, should we actually collect microbrands? I've got to be honest with you guys, no. I don't think you should actually collect major brands either, period. And that might come as a surprise to some of you because proper watch collecting, for the heart of it, at the end of the day, if you're collecting because you want something special, there are some beautiful vintage watches out there, period stuff that we've seen from Rolex, from Omega. They've done milestones, we've got some great movements that have been developed in Switzerland or from German brands, from minute repeaters to flyback chronographs, tourbillons. There's so many complications out there, and at the end of the day, the specific models that was a good watch they made back in 1995, 1980, go and source it. That's good for collecting for that purpose. Now for me personally, I only hold on to a handful of watches in my watch box. That's it. But each to their own. If you want to collect 100 watches, that's fine. If you want to collect 5 watches, that's fine as well. Now, if you're collecting to make money, there are specific models. But if you're buying brand new mainstream watches and collecting them to make money, well, really, at the end of the day, unless it's, as I mentioned, those sports models from Rolex or specific brands, there's only a couple of handful of watches that if you can access it, you will make money. If you can buy a Snoopy, an Omega at retail, you can flip it and make some cash. I'm not in it for the cash. I'm in it for the love. I love watches. I love the hobby. I've lost a lot of money on this hobby, and I think it is a hobby I will be losing more money. End of the day, it balances itself out. But whatever the case, guys, I just wanted to share this with you. It is a hobby, and the last time I checked, hobbies cost money. Whether it's micro brands, whether it's major brands, you're going to lose money. It's as simple as that. Don't be naive. My only advice that I give people all the time is take your time. Make sure that the watch that you're buying, you really want it. And at the end of the day, buy the watch that you want. There's so many platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, screaming at you, get this, the latest fad, the latest thing. It's hype. Don't believe the hype. Buy what you want. Do your research and go and source the watch that you want. Simple as that. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Don't be one of those people who come, leave a nasty comment and then nick off. I never see you again. I actually respond to some of these people. They never respond back. So thanks again. Be well, be safe. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the watch that's currently on your wrist. And we'll see you in the next one.